Well, Dreadnought, we're going to find out if maybe the underdogs have that story to continue to tell, and Dimmick might not be the underdog anymore, but LFM is going to have their shot at Tempo Storm, and maybe they'll be the survivor. They're not going to give up.
They are not going to give up, and it is just ridiculous the results that we've had here so far in North America. I feel like most people would have looked at the last series and been like, you know what, that's a Team Freedom win, maybe a game or two over to Endemic, dominance being displayed from them. And then again, after what we got from LFM and the results against Team Freedom and the performance they had into Tempo, suddenly we look at this and we have to look at it and go, could be a bit more competitive, maybe even LFM win. I know that seems like it's wild to suggest that, but at this point, that is kind of the level of disruption we've seen in our standings.
I'll take some more of that. Let's see how the standings look now after that last series, because LFM, Tempo Storm are going to be the highlights here. Tempo Storm, by way of that Team Freedom loss, moved back into the second place spot. Obviously, map score could win out depending on that win-loss record overall. But for LFM, you mentioned, all right, last week we saw them against Team Freedom. They started out 2-0 against Team Freedom, gave up the reverse sweep. On Twitter today, Fury tweets out he's feeling pretty good about the series today. So confidence has never really wavered when you have somebody with the veteran leadership like Fury on the side of LFM.
Surely not, and something that LFM absolutely needs to be relying on. The level of pressure and setup that he is going to provide for this roster, I think, is going to be crucial. Also, shout out to, I think Dark Chimera is going to be a person that we look at constantly throughout this series. I think he has to really be able to step up because I always talk about supports are, in my opinion, the role that demands the most consistency at the top level. And Tempo Storm's a team that's going to be applying that new level of pressure very consistently that maybe they don't kind of expect. Because Tempo's shown that they are that proactive team to demand some answers if you find yourself in an awkward position. And so how consistently are we going to see Dark Chimera able to show up there?
For Tempo Storm, they're going to have some answers of their own after dropping that series. See if they can rebound here. Before we get started, we did sit down with both these teams. We'll hear their thoughts about this series.
I actually think the LFM series won't be like an easy series, won't be like 3-0 stomp. So someone I would like to highlight on LFM would be Droplets. He used to watch my stream and stream snipe me and just play in all the Hero League games. To see someone who, kind of used to feed in my Hero League games and I used to joke about it all the time, improve to such an extent to where I think he's one of the star players on LFM now. That's something I think is worth highlighting. We're definitely going to have to try very hard if we want to 3-0 them.
I think Tempo Storm as a whole is a very strong team, definitely coming out of a win against Heroes Hearth. However, based on their performance, I think they seem to be sticking towards their comfort picks very often, and it seems to be something that we can definitely exploit. If we are able to keep our nerves in check and play to our potential, we can definitely take down Tempo Storm.
It's always interesting to keep the nerves in check for a newer player coming up here against the team that's been around for so long. I mean, we've seen them at the top of North America for so long. We see them streaming all the time. I mean, fans streaming all the time. I mean, Droplets has been watching this team, it seems like, for quite some time, trying to get any advantage he can in this series.
It is a little weird because I have a bit of the same relationship, I feel like, to a certain extent when it comes to Droplets overall. Like, a lot of when I heard the name Droplets originally was when I was, for the short period of time, full-time streaming, often within my streams when I was a pro player, who would try and snipe my games as well. Like, it's very much like a common thing that he had early on, and that was when I met him in the mid-season brawl for the first time ever. I was just like, wow, this is a weird kind of experience that you've suddenly gone from this, like, it almost felt like a fan, and it's like, now you're one of our professional players, like, competing. It has been an absolute climb for him as a player, and I'm happy to see him perform here. He's been a pleasant surprise within the roster of LFM.
It's cool because we actually do hear from several of the players from around HGC that throw so much credit this guy's way. It will be interesting to see his future as we move forward. We're also going to see our battleground here, so it's time to get this underway, and I can guarantee you that when I see Dragonshire, there's a Tempo Storm logo right beside it, unless your name is Team Freedom and you want to take them there right away. But Tempo Storm coming out, we do see the ban on Braxis by LFM, Sky Temple, Tempo Storm's newest favorite ban for Battleground.
And as predictable as it feels like seeing the Dragonshire logo next to the Tempo Storm logo, I can't help but feel like double stacking mercenaries next to a roster of Tempo Storm on the bottom half of the battleground is equally as expected here, usually sitting around, you know, post 10, 13 level range, something that LFM has to be looking out for. I will always talk about it until we see it become the more prominent approach for North America. Whatever team can identify top lane pressure, I think is going to find a way to get an upper hand, especially I think if you're LFM. Because Glaurung's kind of, you know, leaning onto the Malthael and how consistently that's a part of the compositions that they draft on a battleground like Dragonshire. If you end up getting pressure there, that Malthael should be an easy gank target.
It's going to be a fun one to see. I'm glad you brought that up. That Malthael has really been stand out. It's one of the few heroes I think that really stands toe-to-toe with the Urel, and the way that they've traditionally played around it for Tempo Storm will be interesting to watch. But we are ready here. Game number 1, Dragonshire, Tempo Storm versus LFM, as it's time to get this draft started.
I have removed there, not wanting to let maybe Fan pick up for that. Was pretty high impact. Series against Heroes Hearth Esports with that. Dahaka taken away there. Even more showing kind of likelihood of picking up the Malthael for Tempo Storm as this draft continues.
Yeah, playing around that, we know that Swabs himself, when he was coming through the open division with a lot of these players, it was Dahaka, Dahaka, Dahaka. Right out of the gate when we started HGC this year, when LFM came into their role, he made some sick Dahaka plays. He's definitely branched out since then, but it's something we know the global can have a huge advantage. Malthael, the target on the solo laners is something we don't see that often, but that is a direct target towards potential X factors when we look at both of these rosters.
And when I see that from LFM, to me, I look at that and I go, I would normally like to be like, I want to let Tempo Storm pick something I expect them to pick and be able to counter that within my draft itself. But it shows to me, you know, that they very much are giving concern, obviously, towards the top lane, but it's going to be through elimination of that hero pool and kind of choking onto that. And that is a large reason I think that we get ourselves that Urel first pick is due to how much emphasis has been put up into that top lane in those first bans between Dahaka and Malthael.
Well, we know Deckard has high priority, especially for the likes of June, something he does incredibly well on. I do wonder, though, after watching Fnatic earlier today, there was not one on a game, there was 2 on a games. Unless I was busy getting my makeup done during one of those. But
wait, you wear makeup?
No, this is all natural, Dreadnought. All natural.
As we get to see with that beautiful...
I'm glad we at least get beautiful out. Thank you, Dreadnought. That's awfully kind of you.
Yeah.
Every time I see your small face, it just brings a smile to mine.
I'm tilted every time I hear that compliment. Diablo Raynor, the 2-3, excuse me, here for LFM. Diablo within the 4 and giving over the Murden over the Cattle is going to be a bit curious. Diablo doesn't control the 4-man and doesn't have as good of kill potential as, for instance, battlegrounds like Tomb of the Spider Queen when talking about kill potential, more like Battlefield of Eternity or Cursed Hollow. So I'm automatically wondering, where is Fury going to be able to get that kind of control over the lanes here for LFM?
Neither team picking up. Well, I really wonder now if Blaze becomes a priority towards the ban. We already see Dahaka, Malthael. Blaze could be very effective there if you really want to target that. It was a not too distant past. It was towards the end of phase 1. We did start to see some teams start to target that hero pool and see if they could maybe take control of that. See if that comes up here for LFM.
I do think the Blaze ban would be pretty smart. It would kind of force off a Leo as the highest kind of go-to at that point in time that we've seen for the most part, especially with the Phoenix banned out too. But it's not going to be commitment, ridding of the Genji, not wanting to deal with the kill potential within the 4-man itself. Raynor pretty susceptible to that switch strike, gap closing, and kill potential.
I'm always terrified, though, as a Genji. If I see a Diablo on the other team, like, I have to be very careful with my engagements. We're going to get a Zeratul, the old school Genji, as you and I talked about, I think, last week, because Zeratul, before Genji's inception into pro play, which was around April-ish of last year, it was Zeratul who would man that middle lane. Thrall they had used as of recent, but Zeratul was that middle lane. I can roam to the top or bottom, become part of that kill pressure.
Yeah.
Fan is one of the best in the world on that Zeratul.
He's extremely good at forcing a bit of that reverse 3-2 kind of split and then getting a kill potential either towards the top half or catching off the opponents on the bottom half. And it's even better into heroes like Junkrat and Raynor. I'm a little surprised to see the Junkrat as a pickup. I do think wave clear is necessary within the composition and why we see LFM going that direction, but picking any target vulnerable to Zeratul that is going to join within the 4 or expect to rotate isolated in the later stages, I think is going to be very, very vulnerable to Fan there on the Zera.
That does put more pressure now onto the Zeratul with that hammer pick locked in. We could potentially see maybe the BFG outside of that. We have seen more of the Napalm strike as of late. But the Zeratul pick, early game kills, you really have to find somebody isolated. Junkrat, Malfurion, and Raynor, post 16, I'm terrifying for. Like, post 16, Zeratul is crazy. Post 20, obviously, is wild. But post 16 against 3 squishy targets, Yrel and Swabs, you're no longer jumping forward. You're jumping backwards to try and give that armor.
Yeah, this whole laning situation is going to be tough for LFM. It's very important that I think there's a lot of ways they can stop it, but the biggest thing is you're going to watch Hammer posting up on bottom, while the 3-man of the Murd and Deckard and Zeratul is going to look for the clear and get an aggressive rotation somewhere else. That Murd and Zeratul, wherever they go, you need to be constantly keeping track of them, or they're going to get a kill on bottom lane. Or top half. Top's a little less predictable because Yrel should be able to hold her own, but that is a lot of the concern on the back and forth there. And they need to find a way. I would like to see them get top lane pressure in that downtime, but some way to stop the control from Tempo in the 1-4.
See if Tempo can manage that control or whether LFM's going to fight back. It's time to get our game started here. Tempo Storm will be on the left in blue. We're going to have Glaurung, of course. He'll be on the solo lane. Of course, he'll be on the Blaze. Caterpillar on the front line. He'll be on the Murd. And Vin on that Sergeant Hammer, which means Fan will, of course, be on that Zeratul. And June, the familiar Deckard support for him.
And in the red here is going to be LFM looking for a win here. Starting with Fury on Diablo. Going to have Swabs representing Yrel towards the off lane. Droplets, in fact, will be on the Raynor. We got Figgy on the Junkrat, and last up is Dark Chimera playing support. Already we see a mix-up in the lanes for LFM. This is something that they did against Team Freedom, go with a bit of a different laning situation, a 2-1-2 with the adjustable kind of middle lane. They started with the 1-2-2 like you see now, and then eventually rotated the Raynor towards top.
That's, I was going to say, Figgy's got to get out of there. Cattle went a perfect storm dread, which means that we know Cattle. He will be aggressive. He will stack that. I don't know why, but sometimes when I watch Cattle play, it seems like he just stacks more efficiently than everybody else. He's willing to risk positioning in the early game because he knows he can get away with it, but his accuracy is high, the positioning that he makes, he finds all the clutch areas to make sure that he stacks up early and becomes that late game powerhouse. And that was almost too easy right there.
Yeah, I think it's things like that, though. You are very right. He is very efficient when it comes to his stacking capabilities, but a lot of it comes down to, I think it's his lack of dwarf tosses and confidence in the positioning he has while he's still mounted, or even when it comes to a clear on the wave there. That would be a moment where maybe you could argue Droplets is a little bit out too far, not too concerned with the stacking ratio of the Murd, at least not yet. But even now, right, where you see him anchoring, he's willing to throw a free Storm Ball in that time frame. He'll wait until it's like, okay, am I going to risk my life? And if the answer is no, just look for a free stack and make something happen elsewhere.
Well, he's directly in position. Diablo's sitting on the other side of the wall. Can always shadow charge over that if needed, if there was an invade. Instead, LFM will pick up their camp. We also see the adaptation for Malfurion going the extra reveal. Makes a lot of sense with the Zeratul on the other side. We'll see how effective that is. For now, seems like Tempo Storm will mount up in that bot lane.
Yeah, and because the Sergeant Hammer has the siege advantage, and as we've seen, Zeratul Murden has the better clear than we see from the Raynor Diablo. It just puts it to where Tempo's going to be able to continue these rotations with the Zeratul Murden between mid to bottom, gaining an advantage every time. The first counter rotation is actually happening here for LFM after Dark Chimera gets the follow of Brute there towards the top half, but this should be understood by Glaurung in a pretty easy to respond to type situation. LFM, until they find a way to gain control over this mid lane, which I think it's going to demand one of those bottom laners, specifically Junkrat, to leave that lane, they're going to be constantly just matching tempo. And I think that this is a bigger problem than normally we would paint, because we know laning matters so much in Dragonshire. If this keeps going at this cadence, Jayhow, I feel like it is very likely Tempo gets that early advantage that we always expect from them, especially on Dragonshire.
Well, the response finally did come after we saw the Diablo gank attempt onto the Zeratul in the mid lane, unsuccessful. End up getting much stronger push bot lane for Tempo Storm as they took down one of those towers already. So small advantage to start this game. Tempo Storm, we know they love the small advantages until inevitably they stack up and it becomes one large advantage in their favor.
And one thing that has changed as well in the standard of Blaze builds, if we do end up getting the Flamethrower increased damage at level 7, is to consider the lane pressure that provides for the Blaze into the offlane. His single target, his wave clear alone drastically increases. It takes essentially just 2 Qs to be able to get that damage out, a couple autos beyond that point. And so it's going to make that top lane a lot more problematic post 7. It's kind of interesting. It's almost Falstad-esque now, right? Where you get even better wave clear past that threshold. It doesn't hurt your skirmishing at all, but Yrel is not a hero we typically threaten through kill potential. Fury, very well done with that Shadow Charge.
I don't think people realize, like, if you misplay that, you're probably dead.
It's not a probably, you're dead.
You're dead, yeah. That right there was money. Fury is like, look, I've been around the block before. You know who's not going to get around this block? That's going to be body blocks in for Tempo Storm. Hit him with the spray on the way out. First blood there onto the Rainer. And I want to address the Rainer level 4. Behemoth Armor did take a hit in terms of its nerf. The base health is different. But when I think about the way that I deal with a Zeratul, yes, 25 armor is nice, but when Zeratul has wormhole potential and Vorpal potential, that 25 armor only lasts for so long, Dread.
Yeah, it does not feel like it's round long enough. We did not actually get the pressure towards the 7 that I was expecting to be able to get there from Glarong on the top half, going with a bit more of the kind of older build that we have seen here. I don't think it's necessary by any means, but it does reduce a little bit of the macro pressure, just a small fraction. Better team fighting opportunities, though.
Oh, the timing. Then.
Yeah. Clutching it out here on that hammer, making this bottom lane a problem.
Unstoppable, man. Like, it's wild to deal with. We saw June do this yesterday, I believe. He held his level 7. He ended up picking it up before the level 10, but going that Emerald to deny a potential Tranquility coming out on the side of Malfurion. I mean, there's no immediate needs for a level 7, so he has this disciplined approach that he wants to keep an eye and make his decision with as much information as he can.
And I think one thing to look at when debating versus the Emerald, even if it's for your own kind of games at home versus just analyzing HGC, is the trade-offs between how much self-sustain actually exists on multiple heroes. He ends up going the same route here, but you can also consider, you know, Junkrat, Yrel, and Diablo all have self-sustain too, so you're kind of limiting that as well. Shadow Charge coming in from Fury. Kattle's going to be there though. Fan will come in from above as the Stormbolt ends up landing. Fury's now the focus. A lot of souls there, but they're going to be taken away as Temple gets that. Look at that. June locking down 2. Nature's Cure is going to be there from Dark Chimera. Moonfire is enough to get the heal and keep them alive, but now Droplets joining in as Fan threatening off LFM.
Does eat a few shots. Concussion Mine not in position, ends up sending Fan to the top side there and over the wall. But for Tempo Storm, Dread, 2 kills now. Small lead in terms of experience in this bot lane, now exposed.
This is going to kind of snowball harder and harder though, J-Hal, because as those minions go in now, we have a front wall on bottom that's not going to be there to be able to defend. Tempo's been just fine on the top half. Talking about top half rotations, Cattle is here with Zeratul in case they want to make sure they get that kill. And this is the advantages gained purely based on the 2-man advantage that Tempo has with their wave clear over mid. Now the rotation for Tempo Storm out through mid. Deckard and Hammer yet to make the transition up, so not too much interest into the Dragon Knight, at least not yet. Is Fan forced to teleport out there.
10 tier. This is going to be fun to watch. We do see some consideration on APOC, and APOC could be a natural response towards something like Stay a While and Listen, because there is a wind-up, a channel time on that Stay a While and Listen. You can always exchange it with an APOC, I believe. APOC, since we saw the buff, I guess, the cooldown reduction come back a little further, might be more tempting in that regards.
You can just self-void it.
Fury sidestepped the Stormbolt. He's like, oh, my bad, Droplets. Droplets just ate it right to the face because Fury sidestepped it.
It's one of those awkward moments that can happen. You know, as the support, you're always like, hey, dude, if you could just wear this for me, I can make you get out of that. I can't make me get out of that. You wear that for me, I save you. Definitely a frustrating kind of moment. There's still no decision between the Lornado, or excuse me, the Deckard Cain versus the Diablo in terms of heroic choices. There it is, the APOC. One thing I wanted to point out, though, is if it's the APOC is going to be a major response. Void Prison's a pretty good soft counter to APOC. Fury found Glarong here up on top. Kattle's going to join in with the team, but look at this. Dark Chimera joining the rest of the ranks here of LFM.
Let's go back to that point, because this was a discussion you and I had, I believe, with somebody when we were at the Eastern Clash. If you want to elaborate a little on that, the APOC, right? If I know that I'm about to be locked down as a Zeratul player, what can I do to maybe help my team?
So you just self-void your allies. Zeratul's Void Prison, except for the 20 upgrade, makes it where this isn't a possibility. But the everything up until that point, you can essentially use it as a defensive tool for major elements like APOC. You just wait until it hits onto the ground, you void your allies, you teleport out as the Zeratul, you wait for it to drop, and then you go in. It's not 100% do you usually see that. Normally you see the Void and then the APOC as a response, but in a worst case, wow, this APOC is going to lose us the game, it's a nice soft tool. It's pretty much the same trade-offs between Void and Sanctification.
It's always a fun thing to kind of look at things differently through a different spectrum, right? Here's one end, but what if we did it differently?
Yeah.
Right? So that is an interesting thing. With the APOC, I have seen players, especially now with the Diablo. Oh, nice stun onto the Rip Tire there. That's actually going to be locked down. Here's that double camp pressure, Dreadnought. It's
around level 13. Whoever would have guessed here. Tempo Storm just
9 minutes.
Constantly doing this cycling pressure towards the bottom half. And one thing as well that we haven't talked about yet that normally you have concerns with when you have a Hammer composition is how are you going to get room for Hammer to be able to survive. They have 2 great tools between Void Prison and the Bunker. There is a lot of pause buttons in these fights for Vin to really just cause havoc onto the base of LFM. And it's really coming to light here on this siege.
This is wild. I mean, Figgy just missed out on the original concussion mine to knock those into at least tower range. They finally get it. But this bot lane has been shredded right now. I was going to say some Diablo players that we've seen as of late, if they do go APOC, they end up going into that devastating charge at 13-16, the combo for the damage, and then the reset at 16 instead. More into the W build here, but just using the APOC as a potential playmaker if needed.
I think it's going to be needed here. So far, LFM, the biggest silver lining is that that night camp on top was able to get that top 4. And normally I'd be like, well, that's very high praise. It should make the top lane very vulnerable. Blaze is one of the best offlaners to hold his own in that offlane. That's part of the reason I was talking about so much on that Malthael earlier in the draft, is that's a hero in this type of situation that would be able to get killed over here. Glorong, for now, he's like, I'm near my death bridge. I am fine. And even if everybody rotates, Temple can buy a lot of time making other plays elsewhere onto the battleground. So a lot of responsibility here for LFM post 10-minute mark here if they want to recover in this game.
Still have a lot of tools to get back into that. Still have a lot of wave clear in case things go awry. The problem is that pressure that they gave up on the bot lane. At this point, the DK should have scaled high enough to where you can basically bully your way down that bot lane. But for Tempo Storm Dread, we know they like to create advantages elsewhere on the map. And right now, they're getting the camp. And I think LFM realizes before 16, maybe this is the fight we look for. Unable to get the full rotation in, though.
It's one of those initiations where you can understand the patience. Oh, wait, Figgy is actually going to try and get this. Stormbolt was warned, but bottom controlled by Zeratul. Vin not going to get locked down at all here. For a moment, maybe a concussion mine play coming through. Fan is yet to make the transition up from that bottom lane here. Tempo's going to wait out the 16 Talentair and then surely force the advantage that they have over that Dragon Knight. LFM, that window is just closing quicker and quicker here, J-Hal. And you see Blaze is going to be the focus, but that was, again, highlighting a lot of the concerns I had on the difference between Blaze versus some of the other offlaners.
Murden coming through to make sure an anchor is Caterpillar. He's trying to find the choke points, making sure that if needed, Ven. And the interesting part, Dreadnought, is that they have mines in one, and there's going to be Murden in the other. They are protected on all fronts. They still have the cooling engines, the unstoppable, so it's normally better to protect the far flank as opposed to the closer flank because Sergeant Hammer should be self-sufficient to get out of there. And now here we go, targeting the double camp again. LFM without 16. Are they going to be willing to sit onto this? Figgy, the target of Fan on the backside. Lornado is going to buy some time. That's going to get some damage in. VP is going to buy an entire area for them to work in as that's another takedown.
But that is a 100-second cooldown that was used on that Void Prison. 16 Talentair should be here soon, and Fury's going to be back with the souls. More importantly, APOC will be available. But wait, Figgy getting caught out with that Stormbolt, with that jet propulsion, and the damage from Fan. That is enough. And what was a moment for LFM to possibly recover is quickly removed at the hands there of Cattle on that Murden.
I mean, that was coordination if you've ever seen it. The fact that they had all 3 members ready to follow up there and Glaurung snap hitting onto that bunker to try and make sure it wears the shots and then also get that extra damage as that shoots forward with Sergeant Hammer here and double siege camps. They are moving forward right now. Fury is keeping the aggro of at least 1 or 2 of those siege giants to make sure they don't turn their attention to the core. But now 3 members or 3 of those siege giants plus the minions are on the core, and Tempo Storm trying to close it out right now.
Yeah, they're just waiting for Junkrat to spawn, and then surely somebody's got to make something happen. Core shielding has been removed. Fury, will we see the APOC come online? Still 30 seconds. There goes the APOC. Nobody going to get hit yet. Glaurung split from the team. 7 seconds out from a bunker. Root is thrown down. 4 seconds, 3 seconds. Can he get the bunker? No, damage is there. LFM get their first kill, and Fury actually survives. Fan quickly denies that as he goes back in.
Oh my
Cleaning
God.
up shop here on that Zeratul.
Oh, Fan, hit him with the B-step before you drop down. Let him know where your territory is. And Fan goes in there. He's like, I'm on cleanup duty. It doesn't matter. Give me that 16. Because that's the thing. Is like, look, once you're all in, Dreadnought, post 16, you get that cooldown reduction on that Q. He's like, look, I'm probably going to die, but I can probably take 2 members with me. Goes in there, gets the kills, stands in there like a champ. Now imagine if that's post 20, then puts down the spray and the B-step.
Confidence there.
Oh my
Fan.
goodness.
Clean play as well there. Love the initiative being displayed there by Fan to understand that this is a losing scenario unless I go in. And it is why you see that level of play as we're taking a look back. Standard, tempo siege here so far. I can't help but feel like the biggest part here is the APOC denial. Glorong is trying to wait out that bunker. He knows he can't make it in, but this is where it is. Fan understands, all right, this is probably going to get pretty sour here if I don't make a play. Just
Vorpal in. And then at this point, he's like, look, I'm probably going to die. He's going to get that cooldown because you get the cooldown reduction on your 16. That's why he knows. He's like, look, one more cleave here, they're going down. That 16 is insane when you hit multiple targets. For LFM, maybe they could have had time to split, but instead Fan takes 2 with him. And that's just money plays right there.
And we need to remind everybody at home that that was a team fight where there was no Void Prison available. That was a major element as to why LFM was able to take that fight. They're going to try it again, but Void Prison will be here. Bunker is not going to be, as Glorong still yet to make the transition down. Huge Lornado getting thrown there by June. The Riptire coming out, but Vin and friends will be able to make it behind this wall if they would like to do so. Glorong now joins the team here over bottom.
Look, despite the chaos and the kills, LFM still only finds themselves down just under a level. We'll see if they can hold strong here. Getting a fight here might be one of the best chances that they have. As right now, they'll walk away momentarily. Swabs, he gets knocked back there.
Cattle lands the follow-up Storm Bolt. Damage coming through. Droplets gets the heals. Tranquility drop. APOC uses. Fury eats a Storm Bolt. No stun coming through, but oh man, Cattle responds with one. 2-man Storm Bolt goes in. Fury damages through, and they get the kill. Keep in mind, no Void used yet, and there it is to stall out what is going to be a minimum 1 more death here. Scroll sealing out. Drop for the root. Good night, my sweet prince.
Oh, Fan, though, taking some minion damage there. Trying to put some English on it is Figgy, seeing if he could get that snipe kill. Unable to do so. Tempo Storm picks up another 2 kills. They also start to make their way towards the core. See if they can hold here. They're almost 20. Will be awfully close through some minion waves as we see Droplets on his way back.
Biggest silver lining is no Void, no Bunker. Those are 2 great core tools. Sadly, there's a Sergeant Hammer still wailing away. Napalm, one of the best siege capabilities too. Fan goes in, buys a bit of resources. Shielding on the core. J-How is down. 25 seconds out from anybody of LFM.
Yeah, still no 20. I'll be curious to see what Ben locks in here, whether it's the upgrade or whether it's maybe some auto attacks. But Swabs, he's just trying to make it out alive. He's not going to be able to do so. The Riptire will come in there. Fan continue to try and make plays as it's 60% and falling.
60% and counting. Dark Chimera maybe going to be the man to move up. 44 seconds until a Void or anything. Fan doesn't care though. Fury makes itself back, but it is not going to matter. Tempo Storm take a pretty convincing and dominant win here over LFM on their favorite battleground,
Yeah,
Dragonshire.
I think that's the way that we always have to put it, right? Tempo Storm on Dragonshire. They very rarely, I think Heroes Hearth might be one of the only teams that's beating them on there. Look, they're a dominant team. This is what they do. Vin sieging up on that Sergeant Hammer, who, oh, by the way, was the Joker pick for this team, coming in on that last pick. And ended up doing very well. But the way that we see Tempo play this, they're strong. There's no doubt about it. We've got LFM. They were resilient in a lot. Despite a lot of that, they had the core hold there. Just not enough to come back in this, but they'll have their opportunity on this best of 5.
Yeah, one thing that you can constantly look at when judging Tempo Storm on this battleground, one thing that I want to bring back that we saw in the last game, and it's something going forward that I would like to see other teams try and do when playing against them, is mid-control. Everyone gives Tempo Storm mid-control. It used to be with a Hanzo, right? They would be able to get the wave, then send Solom off to the side, Scatterer and the choke as the Giants as they rotate down, and just zone off as hard as you can. A lot of teams give them that control, and what that gives them is rotational advantage. And once they get that rotation down, if they're winning in the rotations too, it's only a matter of time before that puts you on that kind of clock. And I can't help but feel like, if LFM, again, I felt like the Junkrat needed to make a transition, something the like. But going forward, I can't help but feel like somebody's got to remove that mid-control from Tempo Storm because it's just netting wins after wins on Dragonshire.
Call me crazy.
Okay.
This is probably the boldest statement I've ever made on broadcast.
You've said some bold stuff.
I know, I have.
Hit me with it.
Maybe, just hear me out here. Maybe they should just ban Dragonshire.
Maybe.
Mind blown.
I will say there are a lot of other variables that go into why you wouldn't ban out the Dragon Chair in that situation, but I think that is fair. I think a lot of teams look at it as Tempo's got a lot of good battlegrounds, so we might as well learn how to be able to take them on one of their favorites as well. Plus, it's more often than not, like, I'd rather play a battleground they're good at and I don't mind playing than possibly play what I consider my worst.
Yeah,